computer. Okay, so we are moving on to the second lesson in narrative writing, and this is how to plan a story using a story mountain. How many of you have used a story mountain in class before? Anybody use one? Clara looks like she has. Tomomi has. Haben has. Okay, so some of you know what it is. Some of you are familiar, some of you are not. Let me talk to you a little bit about a story. If I tell you a story, let's say I tell you this story about yesterday. Yesterday, I woke up and then I ate breakfast. And then I brushed my teeth. Isn't this a fascinating story? And then I logged into Zoom. And then I taught my class.
This seems awfully familiar.
And then I did my, let's see, I went and I did my exercise.
It's not very good.
Is that a story?
Yes, that's very
No.
Is it an interesting story?
No.
Okay, and part of the reason is because that story tells things that happened, but it doesn't have anything interesting in it. It doesn't have any rising tension or interest. Most of the stories that we really like, most of the stories that hook us, are stories that have something happen in them, and it gets more interesting and more interesting and more interesting. This is called rising tension, okay? It means as the story goes, you're getting more and more hooked in it. So if you think about the story of like the Three Little Pigs, at first everything's normal, and then
The wolf comes.
well, at first it's just normal. And then the pigs leave home. That's like the next thing that happens. They leave home. And then the pigs start to build their houses. And there's a little more interest there because you know that if you build a house of straw, it's probably not the best idea. So you're like getting more worried for the pigs. And then the wolf comes to the first house. And that's pretty bad. And then the wolf comes to the second house, right? And then finally, what would you say is the most exciting part of that story? What is the part that's the most interesting?
When he gets fired out the chimney in the third house.
So like at the third house, right when the wolf's coming down the chimney and you think he's gonna eat the pig and you don't know about the big pot of water at the bottom, right? I know some people say he gets fired out the chimney. In my day, the wolf actually got cooked in a pot of water. So they've made stories more gentle these days. But the heart of that story is right when that wolf, third house, when he's coming down that chimney. Wolf in chimney. And you don't know really what way the story is going to go. But after that, you find out that the wolf, you know, is gone. And then you get to the lesson at the end where the pig learned a lesson. Pigs learn, right, about how to build their house and help each other. So this is a story mountain. This shows you the way a story moves from the beginning to the end with rising tension, starts pretty normal, gets up to the heart of the story, and then has kind of a quick ending, okay? Where everything is resolved. It doesn't all have to end happily because it didn't end very happily for the wolf, but it does have to come to some sort of conclusion. This is easier, I mean, it's harder than it looks, so it looks easy. I also want to tell you, I wouldn't normally teach all of this in one lesson, but we have a lot to do in this Florida pacing. It goes real fast, so I am going to teach you something else. A story has two parts, a story mountain. It has the outside part, that's all the things that happened in the story. But the bigger part of a really good story is the emotional journey of the character, and I call that the inside story. So this is the inside story. It equals the feelings or the emotional journey of the character. If you have your notebook out now, and if you can see well enough, please take some notes on this. You can also watch this video again. I know last night some of the parents said that they watched the writing video again. So now we have a story mountain. It's for a simple story of the three little pigs. We've got the outside story, which means the things that happen, the things that you can see or hear or feel, things that happen. So that's like the actions, the things people say. And the inside story. The inside story is almost more important than the outside story. Did I tell you any of the inside story on this story?
No.
No. And that makes it boring. If you don't tell the inside story, it gets a little boring. So today your job is to plan your story mountain. So I'm going to get you another close-up of this one in case you want to look back at it later. You can freeze the screen and look at it if you need to. But I'm going to take it down and I'm going to start on my story mountain while you start on your story mountain. I thought I had two pieces here. Oh, let's see if I can tear it down. Oh, good. That's fun. So I've got my notebook and I'm going to start setting it up for my story mountain. So I'm going to turn it on the side so it's kind of like this. And the very first part of doing my story, I'm going to do a line. I know it doesn't go all the way to the bottom because quite honestly, most of the story is building up to the heart. This is the longest part of the story. It should be the longest part. Most people make this the longest part and they tell everything that happened before the exciting part. Then they just tell the exciting part and end the story. But good stories, this is the biggest part. And I'm going to read you a story today that has a huge heart. Okay? If your story doesn't have a heart, it's kind of a so what story. I'm going to write your first job today. The first thing you have to do is you need to pick one of your stories. So if you made a list of stories in the back of your notebook yesterday, or I say back because I usually do it in the back of my notebook, but your T-chart that you made yesterday with your stories in it, you're going to go on and look at those, and maybe some of you tried out some of those stories, and you're going to pick one. I ended up picking one about a time I was really angry when I threw a pie at my brother. It was just a little Hostess pie. I'm going to do the pie story. I'm going to put a star by it so that I'm writing my pie story, but you need to pick a story. That's your first job today, okay? Once you've picked a story, you're going to stick with the same story for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, really. So job number 2 is you're going to go to your new story mountain, which of course I've lost mine by now. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is your second job today, is you're going to make a story mountain. Now the Florida Virtual has a different graphic organizer. I don't really like theirs because theirs doesn't talk about rising tension, and I'm afraid I'm going to get a boring story. I don't want a boring story, guys. So I'm just writing a story about one time I got mad at my brother. It's a pretty simple story. Subi, I'll take questions at the end, okay? So right now you need a piece of paper and you need to make a mountain and you need to write your topic at the top. So I'm going to write pie story. But remember that really my story is about a time that I really did let my anger take control of me. So that goes right with Ms. Watson's lesson.
Nice.
Yeah. So my pie story, now I'm going to tell you the second big tip I have for you. So first you're going to pick a story, then you're going to make a story mountain, but you're not going to start at the beginning because the problem is it's always hard to pick the beginning of your story. You don't want it to start in the morning. I don't want any stories that start with I woke up unless your story all happened in the morning. Okay. You want to start with the heart of the story. So you want to ask yourself, what was the part of the story that was the most exciting? Was it when I threw the pie? Was it right before I threw the pie? I think for me, in this story, it was the moment that I realized I was actually going to throw a pie at my big older brother who was a mean bully. So the minute I realized I was going to throw that pie, that was the most exciting part. So when I knew I was throwing the pie, I missed him, by the way, but I did hit the TV. So that was kind of a bummer. And then we have so right after I threw the pie, we had a big chase. It doesn't really matter what order you put things on your story mountain, but right now I'd like everybody to make a story mountain. So I see some of you sitting like you're not writing. Everyone's writing right now. Get your notebook out, make your story mountain, And then this is what you're going to submit to me this week instead of the other graphic organizer. Just take a picture of your story mountain when you have it done. I'm writing in Sharpie. I don't recommend that because it takes too much space, but I thought you would need that to be able to see it. So when I knew I was throwing the pie, now I'm going to start writing on my big chart so you can see it better, but normally I would write it in here. So now I've got my story mountain. You're all doing this too. Okay, you're putting a heart here at the top. The heart, H-E-A-R-T, is the most interesting part, right? So when I realized I was throwing the pie, okay? That was the most exciting part because I was so mad. I was just exploding. So I'm going to write underneath it the emotion I felt at that moment. I was furious and out of control. So I want you to put the outside story, what was happening when you did whatever was going on, the most interesting part of your story. And then on the inside, I want you to write the emotion you felt at that time. So everybody should be working on that. Think of your story, write your story here. So I'm doing my pie story. Think of the heart, most interesting part of your story. And then I can see you guys are working right now, and I will let you finish working later, but I just want you to get you started. And then what you do to find the start of your story is you just go back a little bit to when things were a little bit normal before this happened. So the day that I got so mad at my brother was a day that I was watching TV, and he came in the room, and back in those days we didn't have remotes, and he ran up to the TV without saying anything and he changed the channel. So I think the part at the start of my story was actually, so you remember the start has to be when things were a little bit normal. You were feeling normal, right? So for me, that was when I was watching TV. And remember, I'm putting this on the outside because this is what I was doing. I was watching TV alone. I was happy. I was watching TV alone. That was the start of mine. Everything was normal. The next thing that happened was my brother came in. So here, remember, I'm writing the activities, but I don't want to stop there. I want to go inside and say, what did I feel when my brother came in the room? Well, I was annoyed. I have to tell you, I did not have a good relationship with my brother. So I was annoyed. But you know, I wasn't furious or anything. I was just annoyed. The next thing that happened was he changed the channel. And now I was like, I don't know, how do I describe that? When your sibling does something that makes you mad, but at first you're just like, you can't believe they did it, right? So I was mad, but confused. I would say I was confused. Like, why would he come in and just do that? And angry. I'll put angry. That's not quite as mad as furious, is it? So my tension is rising. My brother came in, he bugged me. I know it's hard to listen and work, so you can listen right now and then you can watch this later and work. So my brother came in, he changed the channel. Remember, these are the outside things. They're the things I can see. This is the outside story. This is the inside story. This is the more important one. This is my emotional journey. So I started out relaxed. It was a hot summer day. I was sitting on the couch. I was watching TV. I was watching the Brady Bunch, a nice girly show, and everything was good. And I was eating this Hostess fruit pie with this gooey, dark purple berry filling. And then I got annoyed when my brother came in. And then I was confused and angry when he changed the channel. And then you know what happened next in the story was I sat there thinking of all the times he had done rude things to me and been mean to me, and all the times I had not stood up for myself. So really I wasn't doing anything at this point. I was just thinking. And that's actually sometimes a big part of the story, is like the thought process you went through. So here I was remembering all the bully things he did, bullying. And I was getting madder and madder and madder. And finally, when I realized I was gonna throw this pie, I like looked at my hand and knew that I had lost control and I was gonna fling a pie at him. And so I think I said something to him before, like, I think I asked him, I yelled at him. I said, hey, what are you doing? Why did you change the channel? I yelled at him, right? He said something rude back. I realized I was gonna throw the pie. Well, then I threw the pie, but it's a little less tense when I threw the pie because now I'm in action. So I threw my pie and suddenly my feelings changed from furious to, do you know what my next feeling was? Can anybody guess? He's too, sorry?
Like triumphant or like sad or like.
No. My brother was 2 years older and he often hit me in the arm. Adrian, what do you think?
Livid.
No. Livid's a great word. It's a good word. I'm going to put it here because I like livid for here. But right after I threw the pie, I've just thrown a pie at my really much bigger older brother who likes to hit me. What do you think I did next?
Ran.
Scared. I was scared because I realized what I'd done. And then I ran. And although this is an interesting part of the story, really the most interesting was when I threw the pie. I ran, right? And I was just out of control. We only had one room in our house that had a locking door, and that was the bathroom. And so I ran into the bathroom and I slammed the door, and my brother was coming fast behind me. He was a big guy. This is when he was a little bit older. And he hit the door, right? So right here, I'm terrified a little bit. My brother slammed into the door and he broke it off his hinges and it fell to the ground. And what do you think I felt when he broke the door?
Scared.
I wasn't scared anymore. Do you know why?
Amazed or like.
I was amazed. And you know what I knew? Deckard, what do you think?
Terrified.
I wasn't terrified anymore, and I'll tell you why. Now my brother's lying on the floor on this door, and he was going to get in so much trouble from my parents that I knew he wasn't going to hit me anymore. I was safe because now he had to figure out how to fix that door and what to tell my parents. So I was relieved and triumphant. Relieved and triumphant. Okay? Now, I did this story pretty fast because I've written this story about 10 times. So I've thought it through a lot of times. I'm going to add a lot of details to this later on, but for now, it's a pretty good story. It has the actions on the outside. It has my emotional journey from normal to annoyed to confused. Remember that tension has to rise to furious and out of control to scared, terrified, and then relieved and triumphant because my brother was going to get in trouble. I'm going to add all sorts of things to that, but for today, this is enough for planning your story. Do I have any questions on this? Deckard?
It's not a question, but wouldn't you get in trouble too because you threw the pie at him and that's what started it all?
So I'll tell you what, Deckard, I had a bad relationship with my brother, but part of the reason I did is because I would sort of tease him to the point that he lost control and did something and then would get in trouble. So he was going to be in so much trouble that I really didn't get in trouble. I was younger. How many of you have younger siblings or are younger siblings and you get away with murder? You're so innocent and sweet, or your sibling is so innocent and sweet. So
Whenever mom says Brennan loses iPad time, he gets his iPad time anyways.
all right. So friends, today and every day, when you write a story, the biggest part of that story should be your emotional journey. It should be the inside story. We don't want to tell these bed-to-bed stories that are just flat and don't have any rising tension. I know you're excited about writing right now, But the one thing I wanted to do, one last thing, is read you this little short story. It's only about 3 pages. It's called 11. And remember, I told you I was going to read you this great story where nothing really happens. It's just all about her emotional journey. So I'm going to read you this story now. If you really need to get going, you can go. Otherwise, you can listen. This will be in the recorded lesson. Okay? So here's 11. This is a story about an emotional journey. It's written by Sandra Cisneros. What they don't understand about birthdays and what they will never tell you is that when you're 11, you're also 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. And when you wake up on your 11th birthday, you expect to feel 11, but you don't. You open your eyes and everything's just like yesterday, only it's today and you don't feel 11 at all. You feel like you're still 10, and you are underneath the year that makes you 11. Like some days you might say something stupid, and that's the part of you that's still 10. Or maybe some days you might need to sit on your mama's lap because you're scared, and that's the part of you that's 5. And maybe one day when you're all grown up, maybe you'll need to cry like if you're 3, and that's okay. That's what I tell mama when she's sad and needs to cry. Maybe she's feeling 3. Because the way you grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit one inside each other, each year inside the next one. That's how being 11 years old is. Does anybody remember the name for that literary trick the author just used where she compared growing old to being like an onion? Yeah, just say it, Emily.
Emily.
It's a simile. When you compare it to something else that somebody knows, like the layers of an onion, that's a simile to help us see what she's talking about. You don't feel 11, not right away. It takes a few days, weeks, sometimes even months before you say 11 when they ask you, and you don't feel smart 11, not until you're almost 12. That's the way it is. Only today, so I want to tell you that that whole front part was her hook to get you interested, and it's not the story, it's just a hook. Today, I wish I didn't have only 11 years rattling around inside me like pennies in a tin Band-Aid box. Today, I wish I was 102 instead of 11, because if I was 102, I'd have known what to say when Mrs. Price put the red sweater on my desk. I would have known how to tell her it wasn't mine, instead of just sitting there with that look on my face and nothing coming out of my mouth. "Whose is this?" Mrs. Price says, and she holds up a red sweater in the air for all the class to see. "Whose? It's been sitting in the coat room for a month." "Not mine," says everybody, "not me." "It has to belong to someone," says Mrs. Price, but nobody can remember. It's an ugly sweater with red plastic buttons and a collar and sleeves all stretched out like you could use it for a jump rope. It's maybe 1,000 years old, and even if it belonged to me, I wouldn't say so. Maybe because I'm skinny. Maybe because she doesn't like me. That stupid Sylvia Saldivar says, "I think it belongs to Rachel." Do you see how she included the character's thoughts about feeling normal, and then she's starting to wonder why somebody's bringing her name up? An ugly red sweater like that, all raggedy and old, but Mrs. Price believes her. Mrs. Price takes the sweater and puts it right on my desk. But when I open my mouth, nothing comes out. You're not mine, I finally say, in a little voice that was me when maybe I was 4. "Of course it's yours," Mrs. Price says. "I remember you wearing it once." Because she's older and the teacher, she's right, and I'm not. Not mine, not mine, not mine, but Mrs. Price is already turning to page 32 and math problem number 4. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I'm feeling sick inside, like the part of me that's 3 wants to come out of my eyes. Only if I squeeze them tight and bite down on my teeth real hard and try to remember that today I'm 11. 11. Mama is making a cake for me tonight. And when Papa comes home, everybody will sing happy birthday to you. But when the sick feeling goes away and I open my eyes, the red sweater is still sitting there like a big red mountain. I move the sweater to the corner of my desk, pushing it with my ruler. I move my pencils and books and eraser as far from it as possible. I even move my chair a little to the right Not mine, not mine, I'm thinking. In my head, I'm thinking, how long till lunchtime? How long till I can take the red sweater and throw it over the schoolyard fence? Or even leave it hanging on a parking meter or bunch it up into a little ball and toss it in the alley. Except when math period ends, Mrs. Price says loud and in front of everybody, "Now, Rachel, that's enough," because she sees I've shoved the red sweater to the tippy tip corner of my desk and it's hanging all over the edge like a waterfall, but I don't care. And I love that simile, like a waterfall. Can't you just see the sweater? I would love it if you guys include some similes in your stories. Rachel, Mrs. Price says, and now she says it like she's getting mad. "You put that sweater on right now and no more nonsense." "But it's not now," Mrs. Price says. Teachers are so mean in stories. This is when I wish I wasn't 11, because all the years inside of me, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, are pushing at the back of my eyes when I put one arm through one sleeve of the sweater that smells like cottage cheese, and then the other arm through the other, and stand there with my arms apart like if the sweater hurts me. And it does, all itchy and full of germs that aren't even mine. Raise your hand if you're interested in this story. Amazing, and nothing's happening. She's just sitting there thinking. That's when everything I've been holding in since this morning, since when Mrs. Price put the sweater on my desk, finally lets go. And all of a sudden, I'm crying in front of everybody. I wish I was invisible, but I'm not. I'm 11, and it's my birthday today, and I'm crying like I'm 3 in front of everybody in my class. My face is all hot, and spit is coming out of my mouth because I can't stop the little animal noises from coming out of me until there aren't any more tears left in my eyes, and it's just my body shaking, like when you have the hiccups, and my whole head hurts, like when you drink milk too fast. But the worst part is right before the bell rings for lunch, that stupid Phyllis Lopez, who is even dumber than Sylvia Saldivar, says she remembers the red sweater is hers. I take it off right away and give it to her, only Mrs. Price pretends like everything's okay. Today I'm 11. There's cake Mama's making for tonight. Can you tell that the story just switched from the tense heart of the story into the conclusion? So she's in another paragraph. This is the conclusion. There's cake Mama's making for tonight, and when Papa comes home from work, we'll eat it. There'll be candles and presents, and everybody will sing, happy birthday to you, Rachel. Only it's too late. I'm 11 today. I'm 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. But I wish I was 102. I wish I was anything but 11, because I want today to be far away already. Far away like a runaway balloon, like a tiny O in the sky, so tiny, tiny, you have to close your eyes to see it. And the reason I love to read that story to kids is sometimes kids think they have to have an exciting story to write about. This little girl wrote about a time she got embarrassed. All of us have been embarrassed. I'm writing about a time I lost my temper. All of us have lost our temper, probably. Your story can be a very exciting story without anything exciting happening. If you tell the inside story about your emotional journey, a time when you felt a strong emotion, okay? Today, your job is to make that story mountain and to plan the outside and inside story. Some kids have asked me, can I write a story that I've written before? Can I rewrite it? What do you think the answer is? Yes, you can rewrite a story you wrote last year, because every year you're getting older, you're getting another layer of that onion, and you're writing better and better. So real authors write and rewrite their stories till they get them just how they want them. So you can rewrite it as long as you change it and make it better, all right? If you're super stuck and you really don't have a story idea, make sure you come to office hours today. I'm gonna stay on here for about an hour. I want, let's see, Joey and Deckard, are you guys both still here? Joey and Deckard, are you guys both still here? So I'm gonna have you two stay on. Everybody else, you can take off and come back for office hours in like 15 or 20 minutes after I'm done talking to Joey and Deckard. Okay, bye-bye guys, have a great day.